Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Cicero Regular Town Board Meeting, Wednesday, October 12th, 2022 at 6:30 PM. Please note there are two exits in the rear of the room and one up front. And if you would, please silence your cell phone. Now we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you. So before we start our meeting tonight, I'd like to offer our thoughts and prayers for the Hardy family and the Cicero Fire Department family. Public input tonight. If anybody has anything they'd like to say prior to the meeting on any of the agenda items, raise your hand and we'll have you come up now. Okay, we'll start with does somebody want to talk right now on behalf of the agenda items prior? The questions?
What is
Is it pertaining to the public hearing?
Okay,
Oh, okay.
we'll let you speak then, if you want to speak then. Nope, that's okay.
Oh, no problem.
No, that's okay. Come on up. Come on up.
She should wait. She should wait.
Is this on the public hearing, ma'am? If it is, we'll let you wait until the input on the public hearing. Okay,
Okay.
and we'll start with number 3, Counselor White.
Approval of abstracts. Move for the adoption of a resolution approving abstract numbers 37 dated 9/12/22, number 38 dated 9/19/22, and number 39 dated 9/26/22, and number 40 dated 10/3/22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain, passed. Number 4,
That's you.
budget modifications.
Oh, I don't have that.
There's no budget mods, you took them off?
Not on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll, the public hearing, Metro North Plan Unit Development located at 8010 and 8016 Brewerton Road, Cicero, tax map numbers 44-03-01.1 and 44-03-12.2. Move for the adoption of resolution calling a public hearing on October 12, 2022, commencing at what time is it? 6:34 PM. Local time to consider the application of Garberly Development LLC for a change of zone for regional commercial to planned unit development, PUD, for property located at 8010 and 8016 Brewerton Road, tax map number 44-03-01.1 and 44-03.12.2 to accommodate the proposed Metro North Plan Unit Development Project. The project includes construction of a senior and a multifamily housing with 17 buildings and up to 300 overall residential units. The public, the proof of publication has been posted and provided, correct, Tracy? Thank you. And I would like to waive the reading of the legal notice and as advertised. And if we would like to start with, we don't need a second on that. We're opening the meeting. We need a second on it? No? Okay. I didn't think so. Okay. You'd like to start?
Very good. Thank you. My name is Brian Bouchard with CHA Consulting. I'm the project engineer working on behalf of the applicant and developer, Gabblery Development. Also with me is Tim Haskins, who's the applicant and developer with Gabblery. And at the last meeting, Tim gave a general overview of his development company and what their intentions are for the development and why they picked this particular site after looking at many sites throughout the area. And what I'll do is, because I believe this is the first time that a lot of the residents have been seeing the project, is just give a quick overview of the project so that hopefully everybody can understand the full scope of the project and what we're intending on doing. And then obviously get the feedback from the public during the public hearing and any questions that the board might have. Project site is located at 8016 Brewerton Road. So Brewerton Road is off the left-hand side of the page here. Right in this area is the existing Sun Auto dealership, or the auto dealership, which is now Echo Park, used to be Sun Auto. And then the Lincoln Ave Fairview neighborhood is just to the north of that main access road. The project site is about 35 acres. And what we're requesting is a zone change from regional commercial to a planned unit development to essentially allow a town center or a village style project with a residential community and a mix of various apartment types, inclusive of both multifamily and senior housing. And then along with the various amenities that you'd see. So clubhouses, play areas, different like dog parks and things like that. The main takeaway that I really want both the board and the residents to understand is sort of procedurally, what are we asking for, right? Because we're comfortable with it and I know the town board understands it, but perhaps the residents don't. Essentially, what we're asking for is a zone change to allow residential uses on this 35 acres. This is currently zoned regional commercial. And the reason why we're asking for a zone change is because regional commercial only allows for heavy commercial uses, which if you were to look at the town code is specifically described as the regional commercial district is designed to provide for large scale commercial enterprises, which draw upon the market countywide. These types of uses that would be allowed here are characterized by their high traffic generation characteristics. So essentially what we are asking for is a downgrade in zoning. So instead of this being developed by another big box store, retail, hotels, 4-story hotels would be allowed. We're coming to the board to ask for residential use here. And that's the purpose of this application. What we've done is supported our request for this zone change with a variety of studies and analysis requested by both this board initially when we made our presentation, and then subsequently from the planning board as we went through nearly 2 years of coordination with the planning board. These studies not only included the detailed site plans about what the project is and the phasing, but we included a comprehensive traffic study that I'll talk about. We compared what the residential use looks like to what a regional commercial use would look like on this property to fully understand it. We also looked at the Route 11 corridor study. The Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council completed a corridor study for a lot of different areas within the county, and this very specific Route 11 corridor was included. And what we did is took that study and related our project to the findings in that study, and then some ancillary things like a sewer capacity analysis. What I want to convey too is that this is not a precedent-setting project. There are very few areas within the town the developer could come to you with a residential project, understanding things that we're going through now with the need for housing and White Pines and the announcements that have happened for. There's very few areas that will actually come to you and actually say, we want to downgrade the zoning, right? A lot of places are going to be up at the town border with town of Clay and town of Cicero, which are current ag district or agricultural areas that are undeveloped. And we feel that this project is most appropriate for the density and the cluster style development that we're requesting because it is in a heavily commercial area. So it's a lot different than you would see sort of in the outskirts of the town itself, and that the density is appropriate. So getting into that, if you could just skip one slide, Mr. Supervisor, it shows the aerial. And I think a lot of the people were trying to figure out where they are in relation to the project. So we kind of backdrop the aerial here so that you can see Walmart to the north. You can see the tail end of the Marshall's Plaza where Wegmans is to the south. There's a very large vacant parcel that Widewaters owns just to our south that's not included in the project. And then again, you can see the existing auto dealership with that main access road that comes in. So this project will consist of 2 phases. The south portion, which is south of this access drive, is the multifamily project. To the north would be a second phase. After the multifamily project is developed, this area to the north is a senior living project. Access would be provided off Route 11. I'll get into the traffic study in a minute, but one of our mitigation measures to offset any impacts of traffic from residents leaving the site would be to provide a signalized intersection. Sidewalks, we would obviously be promoting walkability. That's the whole purpose of this project, is for residents to be contained within this commercial development or the commercial corridor and be able to walk out to the streets. New York State DOT has provided some sidewalk continuations from Bear Road up through the corridor, and we would extend our sidewalks all the way out to Route 11. Some of the components of the project that we'll discuss will be right here. One of the things that's been recommended by the planning board and also discussed with the DOT is the ability for these residents to have access to this signal. Currently, whether they're taking a left-hand turn into development and they have to cross traffic, or whether they're trying to leave their residential development, they have to cross 2 lanes of traffic. And it's a very unsafe intersection. So we as a developer take no position on this. If the town board feels that it shouldn't be built, we wouldn't build it. If the town board feels that it should be a one-way out so that the residents can leave at least with the signal, we'd be happy to do that. Or maybe it's even just an emergency access with a crash gate that nobody can go through. There's very little opportunity for anybody to actually try and cut through this neighborhood because the closest way out would obviously be that signalized intersection. And there's really no benefit to do that. Things like local traffic only signage could deter people from going through there, but the benefits of having those residents be able to use the traffic signal that we're going to pay for certainly outweigh any risk of other traffic kind of congesting that neighborhood. And there's really no other way out anyway. So we do show that and are open to any options that the town would require of us. And we've talked about that with the planning board. As you come back into the site, there's kind of a 4-way intersection. So this would be the main entrance road. And then north and south within our property limits, we're proposing cross access points for the future. What we will do within this project, because we only control the property that we control and we can't coerce any adjacent property owner to be party to this application, is that we would be providing the town with access easements within our property that touch the north and the south property lines. At some point in the future, Wide Waters is likely to develop this property here. And at a point in time when they submit an application to the town would have the ability to then ask for a reciprocal easement that they could connect to the easement that we're providing. Same with Walmart. We're providing an access point up to that right of way, but we don't have the ability to request formally, a reciprocal easement from them, but understand that at some point, if they come for any type of site plan modification or amendments to their property, that the town could request a reciprocal easement from them. That would give the ability to kind of traverse these various commercial developments that exist to the north and south. So if you would like to, you can go to the site plan for the multifamily, which is the next page. So again, this is the south half of the property. You can see where you would come in off Route 11. Here's the cross access that would be built up to the property lines north and south. And this is the multifamily project. So this is the first phase of the project. It includes 150 residential units, and there's a variety of different housing types here. The 2 buildings that are shown off to the west, these are townhome style apartments. They're 2-story buildings. They're townhome style apartments, and they contain 13 units each. And then there's a similar townhome style building here that has 12 units. These 2 buildings off to the east, these are garden style apartments. So again, they're 2-story garden style apartments. And then the 2 buildings in the center, we call the flats. These are more typical apartment buildings. They have ground floor garages. Everybody in the development gets a garage. And then the upper 3 floors of the residential units. The remainder of the development includes a clubhouse area here. The clubhouse obviously contains all the amenity spaces, gathering, fitness. It also has an exterior courtyard where there'd be a pool and patio. There's a small fire pit, playground, and some sports courts for the residents as amenities there. Every residential unit within this project has been provided an enclosed garage. Outside of the enclosed garage, just like any other townhome, would be a driveway space. And then there's overflow parking that exists on the surface, both adjacent to the clubhouse and then more likely down here to the south where the flats buildings are. Obviously, with this also comes a lot of other site improvements where we look at things like the stormwater management. We have landscaping, site lighting, and all the necessary utilities to support that residential project for the multifamily. If you could just skip 1 slide again. So just to the north, for it to come up here. Yep, there we go. So just to the north, this would be the second phase of the project. This is a senior living project. This includes 128 currently, but we did present a plan to the planning board for 150 units ultimately. And if you
Is that the one?
Yep. No, just one down from that should be the senior. Let's see. You had it up a second. Yeah, right there. Let's just stop right there. Yep. So you can see the multifamily project to the south here. So the center access road would be continued. This is the senior project. We can support 150 units, although ultimately the planning board recommended the 128 units for this side of the project. And what we have here is a series of, again, smaller townhomes. These are townhome styles, so these are 2 stories. And then we have the 3-story building in the center, which is more typical apartment building for seniors. This was originally proposed as a 4-story building, and at the request of the planning board, due to height and sort of the proximity to that residential neighborhood, what we talked about was that these single-family homes being 2 stories have a buffer area of the existing streets. There's a landscape strip on the property line that would remain with the wooded area, and then kind of stepping this where those 2-story homes would be matched with the 2-story residential-looking townhomes, and that in the center of the site would be the 3-story building. This senior project also comes with every unit within the townhomes get a garage and a driveway space, but the senior building in the center doesn't have any garage parking. So there is some accessory buildings. You can see these outboard garages that would be available. And then the majority of it is surface parking. In the center of these buildings is the senior portion of the clubhouse, along with our stormwater management area. And there's some amenities outside of here as well, along with the pool, something like a bocce court and things like that. We also will be providing landscaping, site lighting, and utilities for the senior project. If you could just go back to the overall plan, I'll sort of talk about some of the studies that we did. Maybe the aerial one's good just to land on so people can continue to look at it. I'm going to go down one. Yeah, right there is fine. So when we first approached the town board and also throughout our very lengthy discussion with the planning board, the primary concern was obviously traffic, right? We all know that traffic's an issue on the Route 11 corridor. And as I mentioned, over the last 2 years, we've completed a variety of studies that document what we believe to be a favorable recommendation of the zone change for residential, and that this particular use and changing it from regional commercial or a big box store to a residential project has the least impact to the corridor and provides the most benefit for the use of the property. Specific to the traffic study, this was a comprehensive traffic study. We did not come up with the scope of this traffic study. The New York State DOT, who controls the intersection in the corridor, gave us the scope of the traffic study. It was not just to look at the traffic that's outside of the driveway. We analyzed 14 different intersections, all the way from Bear Road, which is down by Copper Top, all of the intersections, all the way up through Drivers Village, Circle Drive, Home Depot, Wegmans, all the way through to Walmart, Target, all the way up to Stevens Drive. So there was 14 intersections analyzed in this traffic study to fully understand what the existing traffic conditions are and how this development would apply to it. We collected data from weekdays, both the AM and the PM peaks, and then also on the weekend with the Saturday peaks. This traffic study includes a variety of data. It has crash data. It has trip generation data for the development. We looked at sight distances, gaps, turning gaps at both signalized and unsignalized intersections, speeds, capacities, and growth rates. The results of the traffic study, which you're free to review, and we definitely provided that as part of our documentation, are essentially that this development in its entirety, both phases, will create 80 trips during the peak hours from a residential development. That's about a little over, 1 car per minute, if you look at it that way. 80 trips leaving this site compared to what this corridor sees on average, which is 16,000 trips a day. So there's essentially no, there's no large increase that you could perceive based on those numbers. However, there is mitigation that's required. So we did provide the traffic study. Anybody can look at it and look at the data that I'm talking about. 80 trips per hour is about, again, 1 car per minute. This does require mitigation. We can't support this development with an unsignalized intersection as it exists today with the dealership. So part of the mitigation is to provide a traffic signal there to get cars to and from that intersection. We also identified within the traffic study 4 different intersections along the corridor that could benefit from signal timing changes. So the intersections wouldn't change, but we'd be changing the timing to allow things like a longer green arrow, longer turn lane times, left turns, right turns, etc. So there is mitigation that's required that the development will have to sponsor. Not included in the traffic study, because some of the cross access can't be built in today's condition, We did not rely upon, obviously, the cross access to Fairview because there's no usage of that from our development. And we also didn't rely upon any trips leaving either Walmart or the Wide Waters piece because those would be for the future. We submitted this to the DOT. DOT took greater than 4 months to review it. They did have some questions and clarifications that we discussed with them. And ultimately, the DOT has accepted this traffic study along with the mitigation measures that we've identified. The study modeling essentially concludes that with the proposed mitigation measures, which includes the signal timing changes and our proposed traffic signal, that all of the traffic movements that exist on the corridor today are projected to operate at levels consistent with or better than the background conditions at both all the signalized intersections and the unsignalized intersections that exist along the corridor. This traffic study that I'm referring to was based on our original proposal, which was 400 units. So there was 122 extra units that were included in the traffic study. So obviously the impacts are significantly less with the project that we're proposing now. The other study, aside from the traffic study, was a trip generation comparison. Again, similar in trying to resolve the traffic issues that everybody knows exist on the corridor. What we did is take the retail, large retail office and hotel, and we created a concept of what could be built under the existing zoning back here and compared it to our residential development. The conceptual site plan for regional commercial property could support upwards of 170,000 square feet of retail along with a hotel. And that all conforms to the regional commercial regulations. That's versus our proposal for the residential development. The results of that, which we submitted in your files as well, is that this zone change to downgrade this zoning results in a reduction in trips that could be potentially built there with a commercial project of over 125 trips during the AM peak, 424 trips during a peak hour on the weekday, and 483 trips that could visit this site in a commercial use on the weekends, similar to what you'd expect of, either a Home Depot or a Walmart. So essentially by allowing this zone change, the residential project significantly reduces any potential impact that this property could place on the heavy commercial corridor. So we have the traffic study, we did the trip generation comparison, and we also looked at SMTC's Route 11 corridor study. Again, that goes through multiple areas of the county, but section 5.1.1 specifically addresses what's called the new town center. And what they looked at was the Route 11 corridor and how it's heavily commercialized. And it specifically focused on this area behind the auto dealership, but also included the areas that are behind Walmart and Wegmans in terms of what could potentially be developed there to create a new town center. The town center is identified to include multiple residential housing options. They actually looked at upwards of 1,000 residential units across these three properties, along with hotels and mixed use developments, et cetera. But our specific property, they had shown upwards of 500 units. So obviously they didn't include things like wetland delineations and some of the unbuildable areas that we have with the easements and cross access. So we're significantly less than that, but the report goes through, and what we've documented in there is our comparison to it, that zoning, and this is a quote, zoning modifications may be necessary to facilitate a mix of uses and that the town will need to work with developers to bring this style of development to fruition, essentially taking away heavy commercial uses and trying to make this more of a mixed use town center. This plan also did mention what we've mentioned before, like a parallel road that would kind of parallel 81. It was an idea that they proposed. We've left that land undeveloped. Should the town need an easement for it, it's kind of available for the future. I'm not sure the feasibility of it. It was kind of a high level overview of what may happen if there is a parallel road. And, they came up with a concept, but ultimately what they said is that a parallel road to Route 81 was analyzed, but showed very minimal change because it's unlikely to draw enough traffic away from Route 11 to substantially alter the operating conditions. So there'd be more opportunity to kind of traverse that, but people are going to basically stay on the Route 11 corridor. But again, we've left that undeveloped in case there's a need for it in the future. One of the issues that we looked at with the planning board was parking. I'll speak in terms of the overall development first. So the overall development, we have 278 units. These units include a mix of obviously 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, majority are 1 and 2s, but there is some 3 bedrooms. So it's more appropriate to look at the bedroom count when you think about parking. Our bed count for the overall development is 493 beds, and our parking count is 585 beds. So, or 585 spaces. So we have just under 100 extra parking spaces than people can physically sleep in the beds. So we believe that that was an appropriate number, but our discussion with the planning board was that we are counting the garage spaces. It was purposeful for us to provide a garage to everybody. But a lot of the other developments in town don't get credit for their garage spaces. So their opinion was that we were deficient in parking. When we break it down per project, the recommendation was 1.5 spaces for the senior project, which we do conform to. Those garages are not encumbered by driveways. They're outboard as accessory, and we provide about 1.6 spaces per unit. So the issue that we've tried to resolve is really the multifamily project. Currently, what we have within the multifamily project, again, is 150 units, but that includes a mix of beds. The total bed count is 278 beds on the multifamily project, and we have 352 parking spaces total. So again, we have just under 100 extra parking spaces than the bed count on the project, but we are counting the garage spaces, which is something the planning board took exception to. If you could, Mr. Supervisor, go to a plan that I submitted today, where since the last meeting, when you guys had raised some of your concerns, we looked at what could we do, even though we believe that the garages are an operational issue for the developer to maintain with his residents within the lease program, that they have to use their garage essentially. Is there space available to add additional parking to bring the parking count up further? Obviously, parking comes with kind of a cost benefit of everything else that we've talked about, snow storage and green space. And what we've done is added parking in areas that would still provide areas for snow storage. So the yellow is what I have created within the multifamily project since the last meeting. It's about an additional 60 spaces of surface parking. And what that brings us up to is 412 parking spaces with the garages. Without the garages, we have 262 spaces for 278 beds. So it's nearly equivalent to the bed count. But there's 150 garages too. So I guess even if you considered half of those garages being parked, that we believe there's sufficient parking. If the board is willing to accept the additional 60 spaces, we'd be happy to provide it and amend the plans accordingly. Part of this parking and the, kind of putting in parking versus green space versus snow storage is what we talked about with the planning board for green space. We're purposely creating a cluster development. So you see that development is kind of contained within these two buckets, and that the rest of the land remains undeveloped along Route 81. What we went through was, what is the lot coverage allowable if you were to build this project as a regional commercial project? And again, that would be allowed at 40% building coverage. And our PUD is only 19.4% building coverage, because there's a lot of land. It's just kind of more of a cluster style development. Obviously, we also submitted a snow storage evaluation where we kind of analyzed how much room there is. This is very similar to what you'd expect a town road to look like, where you have residential developments. The plow would come through and plow to the shoulders. Every townhome unit has green space next to its driveway where there could be snow shoveled. And the area that really exists in the middle is kind of what we talked about with the planning board, where there's a lot of driveways. And what we had showed them was the ability to push snow out to the edges and then push it to the south, where we have larger areas to pile the snow. And then obviously, once that snow fills up, just like you would do in the village of North Syracuse or the city of Syracuse, we would front end load that to the rear portion of the site in order to clean it up. Obviously, this is a cost benefit. So what we obviously want to show you is 60 extra parking spaces solves one of the concerns, but parking is something that's needed every day. And that obviously the snow storage is something that we have a few months out of the year. 2 or 3 inches of snow, there's plenty of storage for. It's really probably the heavier, lake effect storms that we get, which may occur 8 or 10 times a year, that the owner will have the onus on him to make sure that he has appropriate snow removal equipment to deal with the snow. So it's more of an operational concern. If obviously he's developed this, these residents are not going to call the town if there's snow removal problems. They'll go right to the leasing office, and it'll be something that the developer has to address on his own. So that's really the overview of the project. You know, in summary, this is a request for a zone change. Hopefully everybody understands that and that there's benefits to this being a residential project. If and when this property ever gets developed, there's benefits to this being residential versus the commercial zoning, and that's why we're here asking for your approval for the zone change. I think it's a good time to pause and either ask for you to open the public hearing so we can get the public's comments or any questions that you might have.
Before we open the public, would you, do any board members like to say anything?
I have a question on the traffic study. Did anything mention in that or allude to the additional 9,000 people that are going to be working around the corner in the next couple of years?
So this was very recent, right? This was something that's been planned for a while as far as the industrial park, you know, for 10, 15 years, they've been planning on it. But the answer is no. Our traffic study does not analyze where that traffic would be going from White Pines. I'm not even sure that they know whether it's a new on and off ramp to 81 or whether it's widening on 31. So I guess it's hard to say, but the answer is no, that our traffic study hasn't been updated specific to what would happen with White Pines. And I'm not even sure that White Pines has their own traffic study in hand right now, right? Obviously, there's huge improvements that need to be made regardless. You can just say that generally. I don't know what they'll do, but there's widening and signals and on ramps and off ramps and a lot of stuff that project will need to support for sure.
My questions to you on this map here, on the green space that's over the water on the other side, that's usable property, correct?
So there is some grading. So the blue is the delineated wetland and there's some grading that comes down into it. So there are lower areas that would need to be graded off.
No, I'm talking in regards to go to the east, both of those two pieces of green property right there. Your buildings couldn't have gone on those to
We
open up the
had-
project a little bit further?
At some point, we did have, when we had 400 units, there was certainly buildings over there, but obviously there's costs to providing proper roadways across the wetlands. And then you also have issues with now it's more disconnected. Those people over there are now not as close and walkable to the clubhouse and things like
Okay.
that. So it was a purposeful choice to leave it undeveloped. And then obviously if there is some type of right of way that's granted, whether it's 60 feet or 80 feet, it kind of cuts into that as well. Plus, if you had to make a choice of where you would want to live with only 278 or 300 units, whichever it is, you know, keeping those buildings away from the highway, there's a benefit from it just for the buffering aspect.
So if this project got approved and was built, you can come back here next year and ask to redevelop the back half of it.
If this project is approved and built, we could come back, but it wouldn't be entitled. We'd have to go through the exact same process where we would have to justify to you, is this even feasible with what we're asking for? So it is undeveloped. We're planning on using it for recreation, walking trails, and reserving it for undeveloped space. There is no intent to develop it at this time, but you're right. Just with any property that's undeveloped, we would have to come and justify that to you, right?
Sure.
What we're asking for now is the 300 units. If things changed, it's a possibility that, you know, any developer or property owner can come to the town and ask for what they want, but it would be obviously a heavier lift at that point to prove to you that there's additional support, both from the sewer aspect that we went through with the town engineer. There would be a lot of other improvements that would be needed to even make that suggestion, but
So-
it's certainly not part of this proposal yet.
Thank you. And then the last one I have, why did you not contact Wide Waters to see if you can get a right of way through their property over to Wegmans?
You know, part of that just deals with the private to private negotiation, right? I mean, you can imagine that if you and your neighbor at your residential house, if you wanted to build a pool and you wanted to build it over the property line, you got to go ask them for something, right? So it's essentially an open checkbook, right? We would have to go to them and say, can you allow us to do it? And he could say it to be $100 million type of thing, right? What has happened in the past with projects that I work on is kind of what I tried to go through earlier, where we can provide the access easement. And it's probably better to wait until Wide Waters comes to you with a project because they may have a different configuration of how that needs to look and how it connects in. But it's certainly easier for him to come to you and request something in terms of his approvals and have the town condition that upon reciprocating that easement, more so than a private developer going and asking for a blank check there. So.
Okay, anyone else?
I had a quick question about the traffic light that you wanted to put in.
I just have concerns that it's very close to other traffic lights, which is going to cause even more of a cluster.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's certainly more spaced out than you would see the two signals for Walmart that are the two driveways for Walmart are signalized. It's more spaced out than that. And it's a lot further spaced out than what you see between Home Depot and Wegmans, just in terms of the spacing. When you look at this.
You mean by spacing, you mean distance from
distance
light to
between
light.
Lights, yeah. The distance between Wegmans and our light and the distance between our light and Walmart is further than you see when you go to the Driver Village intersection between Drivers Village and Wegmans itself. So, and then you have the Caudney, like the Caudney Road and Wegmans intersection. This traffic signal ends up being in the perfect spot. It's directly centered between the Walmart signal and the Wegmans signal. It also gives the ability to cross-access the liquor store and Builders First and the adjacent, what's the existing, the medical office there. Yeah, well, now, exactly. I think they're moving down the street, but it gives the ability to cross-access to still access that light. So there is a lot of benefits to placing it here. And when we developed the Sun Auto dealership, the new dealership, it was always known that this would be a signalized intersection. Even our traffic study at that time said that it didn't need to be signalized. But regardless of if you put a lemonade stand or a Costco back on this property, that this would need to be signalized at some point in the future. And it's an appropriate spot for it, given the separation between Wegmans and the light at Walmart.
And if I'm not mistaken, they're making you take all those parking, they're adjusting the out of those parking lots across the street to that light, correct?
Correct. Our proposed, so this is the chicken before the egg, right? So we're in here for a zone change. We kind of have to have some confidence in the entitled use, right? The zone change happens first. We've submitted preliminary layouts of how that signal looks in terms of the turn lanes. We do have to realign our driveway, and we would be approaching the neighboring owner to realign his driveway such that they can gain access. Obviously, we pay for the signal, so there's a benefit to it for him. But we would be rearranging that. There is no widening that's needed because we have that two-way left turn lane in the center that can be striped for a left turn into the liquor store or the Builders First development there. But you're right. We would be realigning both our driveway and their driveway. So that's a four-way intersection.
Anyone else?
That's all I have at the moment.
We'll open up the public hearing to the residents. I just ask that you have 3 minutes to speak. And okay. If you'd like to come up, state your name and your address.
Julia Shannon.
You want to hold the mic?
No.
No.
Julia Shannon, 5776 Lincoln Ave.
Thank you.
The lights in the morning, 7:30, I go to work, coming out are just perfect from Walmart to the other end. It's just like you put another light there, we're not going to have a chance to get out to take a left. We have to go over 3 lanes because we have the auto is right in front of that and it's a left turn. So I have to make sure I can get over 3 lanes or to the 4th lane to go left.
I understand what you're saying. They offered to, if you can see right where my mouse is right there, they offered to put a cross connection from Fairview.
No. I'm right behind Niagara Car Wash. I am
On
right
Lincoln-
behind.
on Lincoln.
On Lincoln.
Right. And there's an access road there. They would like to
Right,
give the
that's going
neighbors
backwards.
to go back to the light. So you're able to take a left and a right. I'm
Yeah.
just telling you what they're trying to do. That's all.
Doesn't make sense for me.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? One behind you.
Hi, Pat Backman, and I'm at 5872 Sutton Drive. My question is, my husband and I just moved here 5 years ago from Oswego, and we have the woods behind us. And we got out of the city of Oswego to have a little privacy, not thinking that anything would ever, be built there. Will they allow, I know some of our neighbors have been there 40, 50 years, so I'm also asking for them. Will they leave some of those trees before, I look at nature right now and I really don't want to look at a garage or an apartment building.
I don't believe this area is
I couldn't tell
near
like-
near Pine Grove. Pine Grove is behind Home Depot
Okay,
that way. I don't
Okay.
believe this is even near where you're talking.
okay.
Am I correct? Am I correct? Well, eventually they could build something back there. I can't tell you that they're not going to propose to build something
I
back there.
wondered if they would save some of nature, the trees and stuff. The other thing is with them paying the taxes and stuff, is that going to benefit all of our taxes? Will we see a cut in our taxes with all of this being built?
I can't comment on that.
My name is Catherine Bottalato and I live at 5824 Lincoln Ave. So I'm one of the houses that road's gonna go right down the side of my house. That they're saying is gonna go, I don't know how to describe it, but it would be, I think you guys have it as Gray Ave. It's actually Gary Ave. And this road is gonna go parallel to that. So you're saying that when I go, I have a corner lot, so when you come around Lincoln Ave and then you go to Gary Ave, which there's really no houses on Gary Ave, if you want to specify that, it's just our two corner lots and all our property. And then you've got the swamp. Well, they're saying that the road's gonna go right across where Gary Ave is now, and they're gonna put another road right next to it with a couple trees and blocking me from everything. Not only that, we have pipes that go under that road in Gary Ave because everything in our development, all the water in the spring feeds down into the ditches and goes through those pipes over there. So when my lawn is usually underwater for at least 3 weeks, or longer in the spring after the snow melts and depending on what kind of rain we get that spring. And sometimes it takes a while for it to finally all go over into the swamp, which stays there till June or July, all wet. When they start building this, does that mean, what are they going to do? I mean, that's lower so that all our water drains over there. They're going to make it so that it just backs up and we're going to get flooded every year. And the third thing is, the thousands of animals and mice and everything else that live over there. When they put in Sun Auto, we spent 3 years with thousands of mice in our lawn trying to get rid of it, moles, everything else that came out of there. So now when they start this, everything, the fox, the moles, the woodchucks, anything you want, all going to come over to our neighborhood. And it's our job to get rid of it all. And they also put a burn and a fence when they put in Sun Auto. They aren't talking about a burn or a fence or anything to block me. So those are my major concerns.
Thank you. Next.
Hi there. I'm Angelia Powers at 5780 Lincoln Ave, so I'm right next to Julie. My grandparents actually bought that house back in 1953, so my family's been there a very long time, and I've seen all the issues that have arisen over the years. When Walmart went in, we were assured that traffic wouldn't be a problem because there was going to be a light there, and yet it's still a big problem because we have an excess of accidents. I realize they're putting a light right there, but one, it didn't solve the problem before. And two, with that many residents added on, I don't see it solving a problem now. Especially not with, as you said, the 9,000 people that will be soon added on in the Clay Liverpool area. Additionally, in my family, we kind of have a joke that Cicero is a bunch of sidewalks that go nowhere. If you've noticed, they abruptly stop everywhere, and we have a bunch of people on our street that consistently walk to Walmart, Target, and various other stores. So for us pedestrians, I'm to the point, we are on the same side as Walmart, and I am terrified to walk because I don't want to get hit and killed. I've actually seen someone hit on a bike on Route 11 just at the end of my street. So my personal opinion, between the light, you would need to fulfill the sidewalks all the way up Route 11 for one, so that pedestrians, because you know there's going to be pedestrians from those apartments. Not everyone's going to use a car all the time. And I appreciate that access on Central, but I do not see it completely resolving the issue, considering we have one now with as few residences we have, and you're talking about adding thousands more. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. And going to what he said about wide waters, it sounds to me, not to be crass, but that he is hoping that wide waters will come to him so that he's better on the bargaining chip table. Going to wide waters makes more sense, and putting some sort of route in by Wegmans, because we've been saying for years that it would help with traffic through there just with what we have now. To add that many people on without any sort of access, really, I mean, that one road next to Echo Park without any other supportive access, and the talk of potentially building onto it with, well, we'll see, is not really comforting to the residents. I would love to see, at least if you're going to do this project, an access over to the wide water section by Wegmans. So those are my concerns.
Thank you.
At the very least.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, everyone. My name's Anthony Corral. I live at 5827 Lincoln Ave. So if you look at that map there, if you look at the closest building in the senior center to Walmart, just to the left of that is my home. And I see that they're looking to put that access road. We already have a road right there in the neighborhood. There's going to be another road. Right now it's all woods. And they loosely use a term that there's a lot of two-story homes in the neighborhood. Mine's two-story, but a lot of my neighbors, they aren't two-story, and these are massive buildings. Yes, when Walmart and Sun Auto went in, they did have to build a berm and a fence. I see nothing but like road and a clear view to these homes and everything. We have about 30 homes in our neighborhood. So about 30 families. You're gonna add another 300 families. That's not that big of an area, and it's definitely gonna cause a lot of problems. And privacy is a huge concern because those things are going to be massive compared to the small houses. If any of you have ever driven down Lincoln Ave, homes are fairly small, and that's just way too much for that area.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Norris Delane. I'm with Center State CEO. Just following up on a letter we sent to you all, and I think is available for the town on September 2nd. Couple of points I just want to reiterate from that letter in support of the concept of this development. First, we support the density of this project. I understand the community concerns. I sit on the Board of Zoning Appeals for the city of Syracuse.
You want us to pick up the microphone, please?
I'm
Why don't
sorry.
you pick it up, and
This one is better.
you can pull it right off there. It'll come off.
I apologize.
There you go.
I'll start over. My name is Norris Delane. I'm with Center State CEO. I'm the Vice President of Economic Development. We are following up on a letter we sent to this board on September 2nd, referencing a couple of points in favor of this project and also alluding to, and now the confirmed project up at the White Pine site. First, the density of this project is something that is important for the town of Cicero. The relative impact to town resources and infrastructure is minimized by this sort of development project. Second, the opportunities for new residents who will have those employment opportunities at White Pine to be town of Cicero residents is imperative. There is a lot of opportunity with this new project, and that's why we support this type of development here in the town surrounding the White Pine site. Third, the senior component of this development is critical for folks here in Cicero and around Onondaga County to have the opportunity to age in place in the towns where they have lived for decades in some cases. Third, the housing developer has a long history across upstate New York of being a positive contributor to the community. We've worked with them, we've talked with them. We believe that they will be a long-term member of this community and provide a great development opportunity and a long-standing commitment to the town of Cicero. Finally, as some people saw in the paper today, the county executive himself is looking towards the towns in this community to advance housing opportunities that will promote infill development, promote opportunities for folks to live in proximate distance to that site, and to think in the longer term of the residents there. There's a lot of, I understand the community's concern, certainly, and it's been a long due diligence process, and we're certainly mindful of that. But in the with the new news and with the long-term planning impacts that has on this community, we think developments where there is as minimal impact as possible to the infrastructure of the community, roads, sewer, water, wetlands, green space, is a great development opportunity. And finally, just to your question, Counselor, around the white pine and the studying there, it's my understanding that the county and the IDA will have to do a new environmental review process that would take into account any of the new developments that will happen now and up until they start that process. So the traffic considerations and all of that with the 9,000 jobs there will be inclusive of any developments that happen or are approved up till that point.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Deb Haig and I reside at 5868 Sutton Drive. And I would like to know how this development, if at all, will affect our development. Is there going to be an access road from the property onto our road? It's been a very quiet road. I've lived there since 1993. We very seldom have a lot of traffic through there. If there is going to be an access road, we'd like to know how much traffic we're going to have on our road. Are they going to widen the road? And how is this going to affect the residents on our road? I know they talked about looking at different avenues. I'd like to know if that this developer is going to actually check into other avenues before they make a decision whether to come onto our road as an access road. We're a quiet development and we'd like it to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Faye Gregory. Can you hear me okay?
You want to grab the mic? You can pick the mic up.
Okay, my name's Faye.
Just push, you got to push the button. Push the button on it. There's a button on the side. Did it turn green?
Okay, Steve. Thanks. Steve? Hi, I'm Faye Gregory and I live at 5671.
Yep.
Okay, I'm Faye Gregory and I live at 5671 Fairview Ave. Okay. On the access roads, now you're using residential areas to take traffic on a busy highway. So now it becomes a busy neighborhood with more cars. Now, the town made the errors of not having comprehensive planning for a number of decades. So it seems now that we're paying for this. Okay, now the road at Central in Fairview that you want to cut through towards Echo Park. That berm was put up to keep out the noise and the busyness of the car dealership. Now we're going to have all these cars going by and all that noise is going to come by us right where we live. Plus, we're going to get noise off of Route 11. Okay, and we really couldn't tell on the map how far their road was going to come out. You see where it says Central? There's Fairview, and then, and how close is it to the house on the, just right there as you come at that bend, there's a White House right there. How close is it gonna be to his property? Now, we were told when that berm was put up and that fence, that it dipped there. It dipped right there. And we were told the reason it was dipped was because of the electrical pole. Now we know it wasn't. We were told wrong because this dip was made, so this would be an access eventually. Okay, now I have some concerns for the apartment living, because I know it's senior residence. This is 4 stories, correct? For the seniors? Is this a 4-story?
How many
building?
stories is it? Two,
Two-
3 stories.
Okay. 3 stories, okay. So where do they go when there's an emergency? They all can't use the elevator. So when they have to get out of their apartments, where do they go? Where are the people on the 3rd floor gonna go? Where do they go? How are they gonna get help? Now, you're talking about people that can't walk very fast. You're talking about probably walkers, possibly wheelchairs. Now, what's the escape plan? That was another concern. I
Okay.
was thinking of that. Also, elevators in the apartment buildings for the seniors. I know one senior apartment in Clay uses elevators for people to bring in their belongings and moving, plus passengers, plus the senior citizens. Is that safe? Is the capacity safe to do that? Okay? All
Thank you.
All right, we wanted to know too, if the buffers were still gonna stay right there along Fairview and Central. There's no plan to remove those buffers, correct? Between Fairview and.
Can you
Echo
guys
Park-
answer that question for them, for her, please? Is there a buffer between Fairview and the roadway there?
Tim Haskins with United Development. The plan along Fairview is to leave what's there. The option to connect or not resides with the residents who live there and this board. Traffic study shows that if we connect, it's an advantage to your neighborhood, but that decision is between the two of the board and the resident. The buffer will stay there, the fencing will stay there, everything that's already there is there, except for whatever may need to change to accommodate this access, however we want to develop it. 1-way, 2-way, however that ends up being. But that'll be the only change along that roadway. That road, as it's shown in the aerial, is already built to town standards. So that road will not change much at all from where it lays right now. Going back past the dealership. And then the road that's shown connecting the two is just a graphic of this is where we would make the connection, however it ends up being designed. Well, it can be designed that way if we want to design it that way, but the reality is that would be a lot more arduous path than either taking the cross connect behind, which is what we're putting it there for, or going up to the light and making a right-hand turn out. Going through the neighborhood is going to be much harder. But it can be designed so people can't do that. We've done that in the past. So how the design actually ends up working will be a very cooperative thing. And we, as the neighbors behind, only want what's best for the neighbors in front. The only thing I could say about that is that this, in the end, this is a much less intense use than what could go in there tomorrow under the current zoning.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak tonight? You gotta, ma'am, just click the button on there, make it green. There you go. Nope.
This is recording, so they need you to have that on. Here.
I live
There
on
we
the
go.
backside of Lincoln Ave. Or, Walmart is on the backside of my property. And they told us before that we wouldn't have any problems with Walmart. Well, we had lots of problems with the traffic and everything else. Even though they put a fence there, we had all kinds of trouble. And so we came in and we discussed things with the town. And they had put bumpers there in the past, and they said that, well, they're there and they're going to stay there. Well, if they weren't on the map, they weren't staying there. There's no trees or anything on this map. So if you're saying that prior to this, if you're saying that we had to have something on the map to keep it there, this doesn't have anything stating trees or anything. It just shows two roads with grass in between, correct? There's no showing of where there's going to be trees or anything. So I'm just saying that if we're going to do this, we need to have some privacy. You've got three floors of apartments in there, and you're going to have them all the backside of Gray Ave. It's actually Gary, but then when I'm the second house in from that, and I have a pool in my backyard and stuff, and gosh, everybody can from their back windows can sit and watch, our swimming and everything else. We will have no privacy anymore. It's been, okay, we build here. Okay, we build here. We've been there over 40 years, and we bought the place because it was nice, secluded area and had privacy. You don't have that now, and it's getting worse all the time. So that's just what I need to.
Thank you.
Good
Sir-
evening.
Sir, you're next.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to go?
Nope, that's okay.
I'm Ann Waters. I live 5860 Sutton. So I am south of where this is currently planned. Lived there 32 years. And I had just said a couple of different comments. One, I heard that phase one is going to be residential, non-senior, and phase two would be the senior section. So I guess the question and these are just comments I have to make for you to take into consideration. With the new Micron White Pines coming along, is there any chance that they're going to change that residential or the senior housing to just the regular residential? Wasn't sure if you have to approve all of it now or not. So that was one thought with the recent news. I also, the idea of everybody coming out under Route 11, going to Wegmans, turning around and then coming out, I think that's going to cause a lot of traffic. I mean, I sometimes go to Wegmans a couple times a day. So the back road into there is certainly something that should be thought about. Again, I understand they don't want to approach Wide Waters right now. My concern being Wide Waters, I'm hearing tonight there's going to be some development there or potentially development there. And again, as with other neighbors on my street, an access road that would go from Sutton up to past, behind Wegmans and up into this new development. Doesn't sound like that's being developed at this point, but it would be a concern for me if it was, because it's residential, a lot of kids, and I'd be against something like that. Last one, didn't understand what the parallel road concept is that he mentioned. So whether that parallel road is coming to my street or not. So those were my comments, and then timeline to build. And that would be, those are something to take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. You can just leave it on the podium if you want.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us talk.
Turn this on.
It's already on.
It's on. Tom Davinger, I'm on 5785 Lincoln Ave. I got Walmart street light right there, right next to White's. There's one house, then my house. Busy all the time, noisy all the time. Middle of the night, bang music all the way until they go right into Walmart. And it's right behind my house. And you guys said you were going to fix that. You never did. That was 2005. I had a stockade fence there I put up myself. And some guy with big cowboy boots come up and said, "You don't take that down, we're taking it down with our dozer." He pointed to it. So that's how it's been since. Now, is this Section 8 housing? Market rate. Senior discount? Senior market rate. That tells me you're gonna charge a lot. And who's funding this? Private investors like Del Webb, Toll Brothers? No, nothing. Okay, those are my answers. Streetlights, you guys are gonna have traffic problems. You got more accidents out there now every day. The sirens are going, the police are there all the time. That's what you're gonna get more of. It ain't going away. I'll tell you that. These poor people down on that street there, they're gonna screw them over. They have had a whole life there, a nice wooded area, lot and everything. Now it's gonna be traffic and noise. It's gonna get the same crap I get from Walmart. All the loud noise in the radios blasting. You know, they got that little thin fence that's falling apart now. It's all rotted out. And that's all I'm gonna get. We had trouble getting the fence put up because somebody knocked it down two doors down. And it's still falling apart now. They've just fixed it. Now it's falling apart. Great people you get hired. Okay, that's all I got to say. Guys better do your job.
Anyone else? Ma'am, you want to come up?
Okay, thank you. My name is Elsa Lamana, and I lived for 40 years in 58 Sutton Drive. And I'm happy to be an American. But progress has to go on. One thing, I can see the suffering of the people of Lincoln Avenue, I think it is. And I see it coming with Whitewater. I'm sure it's going to develop something else. Cicero is water. Cicero is wet. We need the green space, but we need to advance as well. I am happy. I'm not going to see it because 20 years from now, I'm not going to be here. And Micron is going to be doing the chips. And I know the developers mean well, but we need the green space. What about if there is a study that living after 40 years between Route 81 and Route 11, we have a bad air. Okay, we're going green now with electric cars, right? We're going green. But we need our green space. That is important too. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
My name is Tim Murphy, 5806 Knoll Road. I'm the street north of the site. I'm the guy that came in with the questions last week. Under the PUD requirement 278, that's what the planning board approved, not 300. They have to go back to go to the planning board legally if they go to 300. I don't know if you knew that. You can ask the zoning guys here. I'm sure they know that. July 20th, 2020, in the meeting minutes, they said this is planning board, there was too many impervious surfaces, way too intensive a development. Their cluster idea is a cluster F, if you know what I mean. Snow removal, big problem. What are you gonna do? That push it into the wetland? That's not the right idea either. Their idea of a local traffic sign, local traffic only. People are gonna drive through there right now. They can walk their dog and have the kids. They're not gonna be able to do that. It's way too intensive development. Underneath the zoning, multiple residential, it would only allow 228. I think they should go back to the planning board because you guys don't need this intensive of development. It's only 228, not 278 or 300, whatever, trying to shove in here with this cluster. In the review of the August 11th attorney letter, a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is in there. You might want to review that before you approve this tonight. Walmart got a 10-year tax break and they won't even fix the sidewalks out front. So I'm a little leery of development in this town. You can't cross the roads. If people die trying to cross the roads, even if you have a crosswalk, people don't pay any attention. I watched an ambulance at Wegmans today coming right down the road and cars cut it off. They don't care. You can't cross the road. It's dangerous. This is way, way, way too intensive of development here. It doesn't matter about this chip factory. Don't sell us out here. We lived here a long time. There's a wetland there. This is a public health traffic safety issue. It really is. You can't drive down this road. We all know it. You guys hear it every day. 3 stories they're telling you. Is it really 4 stories with a parking garage underneath? I'm not sure if I'm hearing this right. Is it 4 stories? Is it 3 stories? Are they counting the parking garage? I don't know. Maybe they can answer that question. As far as inadequate queuing in the intersections, they're going to stack cars and you can have emergency access to this with a ladder truck to get to the 4 stories, and people are going to die because there's not enough emergency vehicle accessibility with car stacking and queuing in the intersections. That's a big issue. Are they getting a tax break? That's a real good question. I didn't hear anybody say anything about it. And the last thing I have is the seeker, State Environmental Quality Review. I haven't heard anybody mention it at all. That deals with traffic and wetlands and everything else. Nobody said a damn thing. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Anyone else?
My name is Terry Pierce at 5675 Fairview Ave. We are the only 2-story house on that side, and I'm so grateful for the lights that shine right in our 2nd floor from the car dealers. The big giant spotlights. So I can't imagine having more of that, but it's only me. You don't have to worry about it. I am questioning the little road that brings Fairview and Central and supposedly the whole circle, the ability to go on to this wonderful new road that's alongside the car dealers. And I'm glad that they thought about that. And when I was speaking to one of these gentlemen outside, the comment was, you should be very grateful that you can go down that little road and then get out at the lights, the traffic light down there, and that nobody will go into our circle, into Central and Fairview. And I got a little question, maybe we can think about down at Route 31 and Route 11. Okay. Burned area is there, and there's this tiny little road that goes behind burned area that goes to another stop sign right onto 81. And everybody seems to go that way when there's a lot of traffic. So if this is all backed up here, or you can see all the traffic backed up on Route 11, what makes you think they're not going to say, we can go around this traffic by going over that little road down Central and out Fairview? Someone said something? I can't hear, but anyways, that was my comment, that road, they think it's only one way coming out. But if it's 2 ways, people are going to use it. People are going to come into our circle area. I know we don't own it, but there are kids running around. Right now is probably one of the safest areas because nobody comes in that circle. And I think that they should think about that road. And if you say, oh, no, you can't go through, I would rather see the town working on the sign that's from Lincoln onto Route 11 saying, don't block the road. Don't block that road. Or the store across the auto place where they have, you can only come in one way and go out the other way. Well, the people who go out the other way seem to want to turn left. And I'm coming out of Lincoln trying to turn left. So we're both turning left into each other. All of these things are going to continue no matter what the traffic or that the DOT or whoever it was, their study. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Gentleman back there, did you want to speak? No? I thank everyone for their input tonight. And the public hearing, we will not close the public hearing. We'll leave it open. And we'll leave it open until October 26th. Is that correct? Or we just have a motion to leave it open? Adjourn.
I said, if you want to leave it open, you're going to need to have a motion to adjourn this to a date and time certain.
So I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting or adjourn the public hearing until October 26th at 6:30 PM.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Just say, let it,
Yeah.
let them clear out. Sorry, I'm being backseat driver. Sorry.
Our meeting is not over. Excuse me. Our meeting is not over. Thank you. Thank you. Nope, that's okay. If you do not, our meeting's over in regards to the public hearing. If you do not want to stay for the rest, you don't have to. The meeting is over for the public hearing. It's been extended to the 26th. We did. And we all in favor. We said aye. It was unanimous. Yes. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, the application for the town of Cicero to apply for a Restore New York grant. Move for the adoption of a resolution to hold a public hearing on October 12, 2022 at 6:30 PM to consider the application for the town of Cicero to apply for the Restore New York grant, Empire State Development Corporation, the revitalization of the former location of the South Bay Fire Department located at 8819 Cicero Center Road, partial 080-02-07.1. That will transform the site into a community center to benefit the town residents, is capable with local ordinances. The public notice will include the following property assessment list, and it is as listed. And this was also publicized, and I will waive the reading of the legal notice that was posted and advertised. And the agenda item in the public hearing will be open to the public and closed. Do I need a motion for that? Or just we're just closing it? We're opening it. We'll open the public hearing. And we're going to close the public hearing. The hearing was open at 7:51 PM. Next item. We don't need a motion to close the meeting, right? Okay, thank you. Sure. You got it. Thank you, Chad.
All right, move for the adoption of the items listed below pursuant to requirements of the New York State Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System General Permit. The town of Cicero herein called the municipality, after thorough consideration of the various aspects of the problem and consideration of available information, has hereby determined that certain work as described in attachment A, herein called the project, is desirable, is in the public interest, and is required in order to implement the project, and the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board, herein called the board, has provided program planning and implementation assistance pertaining to the requirements of New York State Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Stormwater Phase 2 General Permit for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Operators since 2002, and the board has proposed staff and education assistance services in support of sustaining the CNY Stormwater Coalition, and to provide a regional public education, outreach, and training compliance program to reduce municipal staff burdens, ensure consistency, provide widespread priority audience targeting, the most efficient use of limited municipal funds by distributing total program costs over a number of entities within a 12-month time frame. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board that Michael Aragano, town supervisor, or such person's successor in office is the representative authorized to act on behalf of the municipality's governing body in all matters related to the project, that the municipality agrees that it will fund its portion of the program cost in the amount of $3,600, and that those funds will be made available to the board upon receipt of invoice, that one certified copy of this resolution will be prepared and sent to the board upon adoption, and that this resolution takes effect immediately.
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
There's a vote no, abstain, passed.
Extend drainage contract with LaFleur Constructors. Move for the adoption of a resolution to exercise the option to extend the drainage and maintenance contract with LaFleur Constructors through 2023, up to the amount approved in the 2023 budget. Budget code SD 8540404000.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
There's a vote no, abstain, passed.
Extend sanitary sewer repair contract with DE Tiroli Inc. Move for the adoption of a resolution to exercise the option to extend the sanitary sewer repairs and service installations contract with DE Tiroli through 2023. Budget code SS 8120419997.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
There's a vote no, abstain, passed.
Reduction in securities for Lonergan subdivision. Move for the adoption of a resolution to reduce the securities currently on deposit for the Lonergan subdivision from $69,000 to $10,500 in accordance with a letter from Ramboll dated 10/6/2022.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? There's a vote no, abstain, passed.
Remove 2 large dead trees in town right of way and 2 large trees at the Cicero Highway Department. Move for the adoption of a resolution approving the expenditure of $7,800 to have 1 large tree removed in McKinley Road roadside right of way, 1 large tree removed in the Pine Grove Road roadside right of way, and 2 trees removed at the Cicero Highway Department by Cheslock Tree Removal. Budget code DB 514042.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? Vote no or abstain, passed.
Cicero Highway Emergency Expenditure. Move for the adoption of a resolution approving the expenditure of $21,000 to purchase 320 feet of elliptical drainage pipe from Crossroad Highway. Budget code DB 511045.
Second.
Discussion. Chris, this is a neighborhood or area where they. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Vote no, abstain, passed.
Cicero Highway metal drainage pipe and collars. Move for the adoption of a resolution approving the expenditure of $5,500 to purchase 10-inch metal drain pipe and collars from Crossroad Highway. Budget code DB 511045.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no, abstain, passed.
Move for the adoption of a resolution approving the purchase of playground equipment from Miracle Recreation Equipment Company for permanent or for placement at William Park at a cost not to exceed $172,000. And further resolve to surplus the old play set by listing it on Auctions International. Miracle is on the state bid list and pricing includes installation and surfacing. Project to be fully funded through an approved SAM grant, community development grant, and the Parks 277 Reserve Fund. No funds to come out of the general budget.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Vote no, abstain, passed.
Approve the purchase of two GTAC A140 G2 patrol car computers. Move the adoption of resolution approving the purchase of two GTAC. The numbers are different here. So F110, is it still the same, chief? All right. F110 rugged computer tablets for $5,598 from Pro Advantage LLC. Paid for out of the 2002 SLETPP grant funds.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Vote no or abstain, passed.
Approve snow plowing bid for police department to be placed published in the Post Standard. Move adoption resolution approving the Cicero Town Clerk to submit a request for bids for 2023 snow plowing, salting, and shoveling sidewalks to the Cicero Police Department located at 6200 State Route 31, Cicero, New York, 13039, 13039, in the Post Standard.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Vote no or abstain, passed.
Move for the adoption of a resolution to authorize the supervisor to execute the agreement between the county of Onondaga and the town of Cicero for the control of snow and ice conditions per the 2-year agreement commencing on October 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2024.
Discussion, I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Vote no or abstain, passed. Presentation on a pickleball. We have Joe Jaskowski, is it? Of the CNY Pickleball Association. You'll speak on behalf of the sports of pickleball, its popularity, and the community desire to add a permanent court within the town of Cicero. Come on up. Nope, come on, you gotta come up. Just grab the mic, please.
Well, there's a pickleball paddle, here's the noise it will make. So hear the noise, and that's why we do not want that built anywhere near home. Some people will look at, we have a park that, we have a place that North Syracuse has tennis courts. Tennis courts are quiet. These are not, so we try to keep them isolated. But we're here to let you know that, or speak to you on behalf of the old people, the senior citizens. There's not much to offer in the town of Cicero. You can play softball, you can play golf, and that's it. Well, pickleball is a big, big thing all across the nation. People are just wanting to get on the courts. We offered lessons last year in Culver. We filled it at Skyway Park. We filled those courts right up, and we had with people standing along the fences, can't get on. And I couldn't teach it like that anymore. But as being an ambassador to pickleball, I would love to see it grow and let this community be like the other communities. Everybody, all our neighboring communities, townships, all have provided pickleball courts one way or another. Even down in the city, they're making them for the people. You'll see them in Mitcham Field, Merchant. They have 2 courts now for those people of all places. Where football, the dynasty, people are playing pickleball. So I'm here to be a spokesman for Skyway Park. That is a beautiful facility for us. We converted one tennis court into 4 pickleball courts. And it needs to be painted. I mean, we have the money to paint it ourselves, but we want it to be permanent nets put in there and so on. Make it safer for people. And at Plank Road, there's another great opportunity to put courts in, but we'd love to see 6 courts put in there so we can have tournament play where our community of Cicero can compete against the neighboring communities, Liverpool and so on, and they'll come out there and we run these contests, and they get so involved and everybody gets to really have a great day of it. So the parks there is not being used. This is a great opportunity for us to step forward and help us in the pickleball community to get everybody some exercise instead of just going home 5 o'clock, watch the news, watch a show and go to bed. Pickleball players got excited when they retire. Like I've been retired from teaching now for 22 years. And here I'm at 76 playing pickleball a lot. So, and the story I want to say before I let Sharon talk is that I can remember playing a pickleball thing last year on the courts, and this guy came across helping his kids go play softball. And I said, why don't you come on over and play? They're very interested. He said, oh, I'm too old for that. Oh, he was 58 years old. You know? So it's here. We should take advantage of it. And it's a very inexpensive program to run. No umpires are needed. We don't have any of that kind of stuff. We do our own stuff. We police it. And it helps. It really does help. We take care of all age groups. So,
Right, that's the big thing, it's all ages, not just senior citizens, but everybody, we have 86-year-olds doing it, they've been playing for a long time. And it's, I've been helping out and say that our church was, lessened in the amount of people that have grown. I know, since 2020, it grew by 22%. If you've seen now, it's been growing by leaps and bounds, even more than that the last year.
we have over 1,000 people in this community right now playing pickleball. We had over 400 just playing at max before we couldn't play there. And that's the only indoor facility we have. We don't have a YMCA. People have to go to Liverpool. We need something in here. We really do. We want to get people active.
Thank you, Joe and Sharon. I will comment on this, that I spoke to Teresa and they're going to turn the one on Taft Road into a permanent pickleball court. And that your group decided that they would fund the painting of the court, which is great, and then install the nuts, I'm gonna guess. Is there nuts that have to be installed? Permanent nuts? Okay. And our mission and goal here is to have some pickleball courts at Plank Road, or is not Plank Road, up in off Mud Mill. And our highway is going to go up there. They're going to clear the area. There's a big, huge mounds of dirt up there. They're going to clear the area. We're going to do as much in-house as possible to keep the costs down so we can do this.
Do you get together at certain times or is it, just pick up games or?
We did have at MAC, we did add it where we have to get beginner level and then intermediate, advanced, and so on. But then we also had before those things, we always had a lesson that's going on. The lesson part to give the people learning how to do it. So then you can watch other people go through in. So we talked before about that and programs around this, but I don't want to pay for it. You have to pay for it. That's not a community. Part of us giving out that people let them learn. The town of Cicero, you're part of us with insurance policies and stuff like that. That's all we need. We just want people to know how to do it.
So you don't charge for lessons? That's great.
Pickleball is a fast growing sport.
It is. We've seen it on TV recently. But are there certain days or something, or, I mean, that we can let people know? Okay. Oh, good.
Take your name in there and sign up for somebody else. And so I just-
Very good.
They have an online calendar, so you have to get in quick.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything on discussion items tonight? I don't have anything tonight.
I do this evening. I'll be really fast. Saturday, the Saturday, the 22nd, I'll be holding my monthly office hours, be 9 to 10 at Skyway Park this time.
On Saturday at noon is the open house for the South Bay Fire Department. I'm trying to think of anything else that came across. I think that's it. Tomorrow, we have a,
And then
not
Sunday.
done yet, Ian. Just hold on a minute. We're not done yet. We're having discussion. Tomorrow we have a press conference at the police department regarding some, Chief, you want to speak on it a little bit? You thought I'd forget.
Yeah, thanks. Just Assemblyman Al Sturpey and Senator Mannion are proposing a bill to help out law enforcement throughout New York State by increasing the earning limitations from 35,000 to 65,000, specifically for like school resource officers and special patrol officers, because we have to apply for waivers for them right now. And 35,000 is just a waste of our time to apply for waivers that are getting rubber stamped in Albany. So, and for retired police officers throughout New York State that are retired, and trying to keep them in New York State rather than leaving other states. So again, Assemblyman Sturpey and Senator Mannion and some downstate assembly folks are supporting this bill. So press event tomorrow at 10 at the police department.
Thank you, Chief. Any of our department heads like to speak on behalf of anything? No?
I just wanted to announce, we're having a spaghetti dinner, at the senior center on, November 5th, the first Saturday in November, to, help sponsor the canteen, funds to go to the canteen. And I'll have flyers on the website and so forth, but, to go or you can buy tickets at the door, $10 for a great meal and dessert raffle.
And I think the canteen is looking for donations.
Yeah, we just sent out a whole bunch of stuff on social media today. We really have an urgent need for donations of snacks. If people are willing to contribute, we had record 94 teens show up at the senior or at the canteen yesterday. We're seeing regularly in the 80s, and imagine providing a snack for everyone. I mean, we have some really great organizations that bring in snacks for us regularly, but they show up with a few cases and they're gone in a couple days. So if anyone is wanting to donate, definitely it can be dropped off here at Town Hall, at the Teen Center, or at our office out at William Park.
How's the communication going between you guys and the high school?
Very good. In fact, the superintendent was at the Teen Center today at 3:30. He's making regular visits to stop in with the teens, and that's going over really well.
Good. That's great. Anyone else?
Yeah, Sunday is the cleanup of the fields for the Cicero Little League, if you'd like to volunteer.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. till it's done. So,
Taking down the banners and cleaning up the field and whatever else they have to do.
Mhm.
Perfect. Anything else? No, we'll open up the discussion. We'll open up the public input. If you would like to speak,
Press the button here somewhere or what?
It's on. You're good.
you're on.
Um,
State who you are.
Okay, through the grapevine, and I've been hearing rumors that the town is going to pick up the brush themselves instead of having my company pick it up or putting it back out to bid. And I talk a lot to the people that I'm picking up the brush, and to a person, nobody knows anything about it. My question is this: well, first of all, you have the right to do anything you want because you've been elected, but you don't have the right not to hear from the people. And you can't hear from them if you don't tell them what's going on. And people say to me, well, maybe they'll have a referendum. My question to you is, from tomorrow on, when people ask me, what should I tell them you're doing about telling the people what's going on?
I think you can still do your job. Just continue to do the job you're doing.
Pardon me?
Just continue to do the job that you're doing. and we'll take care, you don't need to tell the residents anything. Just continued. You have
Here's
it.
an issue. Here's an issue.
There is no issue.
Last year, the leaves fell late in the year. So the contract ended that year in November. But I went out for 2 more weeks and picked up almost 400 people who would put stuff out because I knew the following year I'd be responsible for picking up wet leaves and wet bags and all that baloney. But if you're not going to continue my contract, I'm not going out those last 2 weeks. Maybe the leaves won't fall as late this year as before, but if they do, there's no point in me going out. That's why I have to know what you're doing.
I think after several meetings, we've had this discussion that we will be picking up brush next year.
Okay.
Okay. But
Are you going to have a hearing where people can come in and talk? Because
this is not,
I have more experience in
we're
this
not,
than anybody else in
Ian,
this room.
we're not going to discuss that tonight.
You should discuss the money part about it because it's going to cost you at least 50,000 and maybe $100,000 more picking it up yourself. This is my business. I know how these things work. I've been doing it for almost 20 years with different towns, and I've never had a problem with the other towns except with this town. There's people here. Are there still people here? I pick up your brush. Are you unhappy with what I'm doing? Raise your hand if you're unhappy with what I'm doing.
Thank you, Ian.
One more thing.
Sure.
I talked to Michael a while back, and I told him, look, since I started this contract, it was on a per house basis that I priced the contract. And I said, I need extra money for the new houses that have been built. And he says, we're not going to do that. Well, let me read something to you. This is in the contract. Contract price may be adjusted each contract year to reflect the net amount of any increase or decrease in units to be served during the present contract year, as such number is confirmed in writing by the town, which shall identify such additional or eliminated units by property address and type of unit. The adjustment of the annual contract price shall be prorated and made by dividing the annual contract price of the first year of the term here under by the number of units served during the first year, and multiplying such unit price by the number of units to be served during the then present contract year. That's what the contract says. When are you going to tell me how many more houses there are? Because there's a lot more houses, probably maybe 200. 200 would be like $6,000 at $29 a house. What are you going to do about it? That's the contract. You signed it.
I didn't sign
You
it.
didn't. The other supervisor did.
Okay, we can discuss that.
Pardon me?
We can discuss that. This isn't the forum to discuss that.
I tried to talk to one of the counselors and he just fluffed me right off.
I told you to come talk to us, Ian,
You told me what?
to come talk to us.
Well, here I am. When am I going to talk to you? You want to set a meeting? I'll come in and talk to you.
Absolutely. You can set a meeting up with my secretary.
I want.
You can set a meeting up with my secretary.
Fine.
Thank you. Anything else?
Not now. Oh, by the way, my lawsuit with your former supervisor is being appealed, just so you know.
Thank you.
Might cost me some money, but he's not going to call me a liar and a cheat in front of people. And then say, well, I don't have to have a hearing because I have, have immunity by my position. That's not what the Court of Appeals says. Court of Appeals says it's liable.
Thank you. Ian.
You got 2 lawyers. You got one that sits here and one sits there. You should take a look at the pleadings.
Anyone else like to speak tonight? Come on up, sir.
This is Joe Schakowsky. The question I have is when I'm reading the information about the town of Cicero and about what variances are being applied and what's tax lots and so on, you always give me a tax number. I don't know how to look that tax number up and see what property you're talking about being expanded. Could you please just put a link? And it's not that difficult. Put a link from there to a map so we can see generally where you're talking about. I've gone to your, I've been all over looking at
You
different
want
places.
us to put a link so you can see the tax map?
Yeah, so when you look in a tax map, then you can say, oh, they're
Are you talking about on the agenda itself?
Correct. Whenever you see a variance and this and that, or something, a plot of land is going to be developed, Just put a link so
Put a
we can
link
see
on
it
there.
override.
Okay.
We can do that. Yeah, we can do that.
We can do that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else? Make a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.